What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Real Estate Forecast. Quick word from our new sponsor before we start. Go check out the link in the description to support the podcast. The Unapologetic Results mission is to revolutionize the real estate industry by providing the most comprehensive and user-friendly CRM, education, and disposition platform on the market. They are committed to empowering new investors with the tools and knowledge that they need to succeed, while also holding themselves to the highest ethical standards and refusing to profit off of potential ignorance or desperation. Through their cutting-edge technology and expert guidance, they aim to level the playing field and create a fairer and more transparent marketplace for all. So join us to change the game and make real estate investing accessible and profitable for everyone. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Forecast. This is episode 12. We got a new sponsor, Unapologetic Results. Definitely go check them out. Link in the description. Hopefully, I'll have a nice little video up reading out their mission statement, just kind of letting you know what they're about. The CRM is absolutely insane, and it's changed my business. And here's Jeremy.
Here I am. What's up?
My man, what's going on? How are you today?
I am doing good, putting out fires. I'm literally a fireman today with all of our closings and stuff. But yeah, I finally got some time to get on this. So how you doing? How's your Friday?
Man, it's been a great day. I've been trying to work down a retrade, made a lot of calls. I got connected with a pretty big buyer this week, so it's been a overall pretty good week. We had a call with the Tranter Bros this morning, and they're my homies. They always get me pumped up. So that was good. They're over in Tampa at the Avengers Mastermind, I think. Yeah, so they're doing that. But yeah, man. So how did you get into this whole real estate thing? How long
are we getting started? Is this the start?
Oh, bro, we're in. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So let's see here. All right. So how I got started. We're gonna go back in time by about, I don't know, at this moment, about 11 years or so. I was a medic. I was specifically a medic in the film industry in Hollywood. And in 2010, I had a really bad motorcycle wreck. Okay. And so I actually got hit head on by a Harley who crossed the double yellows in the canyons, hit me head on, and sent me 150 feet off the cliff. So I break my back, my shoulders, I get airlifted out. I got pretty effed up. Okay. So fast forward 2 years from that point, and after my recovery, I was on disability for 2 years. And so 2012 rolls around, and I'm living in Los Angeles, and I'm like, now's the time to buy real estate, right? The market has hit its bottom, and now it's finally climbing up. And I'm like, I want to buy a house, and I want to get into real estate investment. And so I had good credit. I had a lot of cash that I had been saving up, but all the real estate agents and the brokers that I talked to were like, yeah, you can't buy a house, man. You don't have the work history. You can't get a conventional loan. You've got the cash, you've got the credit, but you're going to have to get a job. And so I'm like, well, shit, like, okay, what do I do? You know, I'm my back is injured. I can't be a medic anymore. I can't lift up any patients or anything like that. So like, well, why don't you go back to being like a server? You know, what I did when I was like 18 years old, like serving tables.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
First of all, I hate the fact that I took no as an answer, because if somebody had told me about creative finance back then, brother, I had a lot of money. I had the ability, if I had the ability to know about seller finance and subject to, and I did not have to get a conventional loan, that would have been like, I would be a multi-billionaire by this point.
Haven't been able to start at that point right there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Anybody who started in 2012 is a multi-millionaire by this point. And they did nothing for it. They just bought a house and just watched it grow. Right. So anyway, so I went back to being a server. And I'm not really one to stay stagnant, just, doing one thing and being content with that. So I became a chef. And then eventually I became a sommelier, which is the wine guy, right? So I worked at high-end Malibu and Beverly Hills. And finally, I was working in Beverly Hills at probably one of the top restaurants in the world. And I won't say which one, but I'm working under like a massively famous chef. And so I'm there. I'm the special event director and I'm the sommelier. And then COVID hits. And they're like, hey, we're shutting down the restaurant. There's probably not going to be another time, Jeremy, that you're going to be running any special events. I mean, when's the next time you're going to have somebody, 8 or more people sitting around a table with COVID? Right. So at that moment, I sat there and I was depressed. I went home and I played video games for like 3 months straight. Right. Like I didn't know what to do. I sat there. I'm like, this is COVID and my career is on pause right now. Like, what do I do to stay busy? And so I'm like playing like Destiny and, fun little video games there. And then it hits me and I'm like, I was never supposed to be in the service industry for longer than the time it took me to go buy a house, right? This was only supposed to be temporary. And the only reason I didn't buy a house earlier was because I was, the market shot up. It shot up so fast in California that I couldn't afford a house. And I kept trying to play catch up and stuff. And so finally the time came and I'm like, I hate California. I hate California, right? So if we think back a second, I was a medic in the film industry, right? So obviously I'm not going to leave California because I work in Hollywood. And then I became a chef and a sommelier where I need the fine dining industry. So that's why I never really left Los Angeles. And the entire time, bro, I've got guns. I like hunting. I like, I am not the California boy, even though born and raised. So I go to myself, I go, all right, where do I want to move? I'm done. I'm done with California. Now is my chance to cut the cord and, fly the coop. And so I'm like thinking to myself, what major cities are going to be good for real estate and also be bad for fine dining, right? Because I wanted to burn the boats behind me.
Yeah.
So I start like running my numbers and I start looking at everything. I think to myself, okay, first and foremost, I'm looking for a Republican state, right? I'm looking for something because I know mass exodus. I know all the people from California, Oregon, Washington, they're all going to move east, right? So if you think about it and you look at what were the major cities that performed the highest during COVID, and there's 3 major cities, Phoenix, Salt Lake, and Boise. Okay. And all of those performed so high because if you think about it, you've got Seattle and Washington up there. What's their closest major city? You got Boise. You got San Francisco. What's their closest? It's going to be Boise or it's going to be Salt Lake. You got Los Angeles. What's their closest? It's going to be Phoenix or it's going to be Salt Lake. So everyone's going to be going that direction. So I go to myself, I go, you know what? Let me check out Salt Lake, right? So I come here. I'm here for 3 days. I visit for 3 days in May. And then 30 days later, I moved here and packed everything up. And I just was like, I'm done. I'm done with California. And I thought to myself, the other good thing about Salt Lake is because of the liquor laws. No, there's no good fine dining here. There's no good wine here or anything like that. So I straight up burned the boats behind me. When I first got here, though, I'll admit I was scared, right? I was really scared to let go of my previous career. So I did interview at a couple of restaurants. And when I came there with my resume, they're like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you in Utah? This is insane. Like your resume is so above and beyond. What are you doing here? And I'm like, well, I want to get into real estate. I had every restaurant beg me to join, right? They're like, well, here's, you got the position. Here you go, here you go, here you go. And I sat there for about 2 weeks and I was like, no, I came here for a reason. I don't want to hold on to that career. I want to go all in on real estate. And I did that. So I turned down all of the offers. And then I sat there and I knew nobody out here. Right. I knew one person out here. His name was Brandon Aquendo, and he's a developer and a builder and a broker and stuff like that. So he's got some knowledge. So I came to him and I went to high school with him years ago. And I was like, hey, man, I want to get into fix and flips. Will you help me? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's figure it out. You've got capital. Let me help you get into this career.
Right.
So we toured somewhere around 80 or so properties and we got outbid on every single one. Outbid every time. Like, I mean, I'm bidding 50,000, 70,000 over asking, right? And you got to keep
that COVID time.
During that COVID time, you also got to keep in mind that Salt Lake, Northern Utah, was the fastest appreciating market in the nation, right? There was some periods of time that we were at 33% appreciation month over month. Okay. Like that created a crazy scenario for any flipper out there where you could buy a $500,000 property. Literally, you could burn down the garage, rebuild the garage, and you'll still make money. Right?
Yeah, so, that's crazy.
So anyway, fast forward. So we're touring like 80 different properties. and getting outbid on every single one. And we finally find one property. It's in like a country club area, beautiful house. The price is right. And I go to Brandon and I go, brother, I want to bid this one. I want this one. I'm tired of this. I'm exhausted, walking through properties from wholesalers. Like, I want to buy this property. So we bid $125,000 over asking. And they call us later that day and they go, you won. Congratulations. And by the way, in Salt Lake, not a lot of other cities do this, but in Salt Lake, the wholesalers will typically host showings. So like they'll have a 1 hour showing once, and every investor is going to show up there, walk the property, and then give their highest bid, right? Some places do that, but Salt Lake is known for that, right? So the biggest wholesalers all do that. So anyway, so I bid 125,000 over asking, and they call me and they go, congratulations, you won. And I'm like, oh, fuck yeah.
Right,
super,
that
super
feeling.
stoked. They're like, we're going to call you in the morning and get all the paperwork started. Cool. Awesome, man. So I'm super excited. Morning comes around. I don't hear from them. Afternoon comes around. I don't hear from them. I finally call and I'm like, hey, what's going on? I want to get all the paperwork started. And they go, yeah, we're selling it to a friend. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Like you like, did this friend pay more than me? And they're like, no, he's paying the same as you. And I'm like, wait, did he give his bid before the bidding was stopped? They're like, yeah, no, he get last night after we closed the bidding. Super sorry to do this to you, man, but good luck. Okay. That was probably the largest wholesale company in the state that did that. And I said, I'm done. Why am I relying on wholesalers to give me their shit deals? I'm going to do this myself. Right. So instead of becoming a fix and flipper, I started learning how to do direct to seller marketing. And so I do that. I started in Salt Lake, and I will tell you right now, I got my teeth kicked in multiple times. It was hard. I mean, the marketing here was really, really, really hard when those big companies were at about $100,000 a month in market spend. Right. And so I'm over here trying to figure this out for myself and talk to sellers. And you got to understand, every seller out here was able to get $100,000 over asking every time, anytime they wanted to sell. So even if you're in pain, even if you're in foreclosure or something, you still can go to any wholesaler or anybody. You can go on a street corner and just yell, I'm selling my house for cash. And 15 people would go, I'm a buyer, I'm a buyer, I'm a buyer. Right. So
yeah, that makes things so incredibly difficult.
Yep, exactly. So I started in Salt Lake, and then I eventually started trying to go nationwide. Right. So I ventured out of Salt Lake and I started touching on Indiana and I started touching Ohio and stuff. And overnight, it was a night and day difference. I mean, like my VAs were maybe getting 3 leads a week, right, in Utah. And then right when we went to Ohio, we were getting about 10 to 12 leads a day, right? Same VAs, same script, same everything. But the conversations completely shifted because everybody in Salt Lake thought that their home was made of gold and ivory, right? And so everyone in Ohio, the conversations were literally like, will you just take over my mortgage? And I'm like, what? How is this happening right now? Is this another dimension? So I started sharpening my teeth in Indiana and Ohio, started getting deals under contract, started wholesaling. My very first deal was in Gary, Indiana. Are you familiar with Gary, Indiana?
I'm not. The furthest that I'm in Alabama, the furthest north I've been is probably Pennsylvania for like a wrestling tournament.
Okay. Gary, Indiana is called Scary Gary for a reason. Okay. This is a ghetto, bro. This is a super, super ghetto. Majority of the properties are vacant and abandoned. And I mean, I'll put it this way. Right after this first deal we did in Gary, some arson burned down around 30 something homes and nobody cared. Right. Like they burnt down an entire neighborhood, just lighting fires to every single house and nobody cared. So I get this property under contract for $2,200 purchase price. $2,200 purchase price, right?
That's a crazy purchase price.
Yeah. And then I assign it for 6,200, right? So I make $4,000 and I'm like, woohoo! Like I'm on top of the world, right? Now
proof of concept. Yeah.
Right. Proof of concept. And then from that point on, it started growing out and growing out and growing out, getting more deals. So then fast forward, I get into a park.
So when was that? When you wholesaled that deal in Gary? When was that?
That would have been December of 2020.
Okay, December 2020.
Yeah. So officially, like I said, I moved out to Utah. I was here July 1st of 2020. Okay. So anyway, so I got into a partnership that didn't really work out. Right. So I joined somebody else and it was not the right partnership. I should have known right from the start. Pace Morby, he even told me, he's like, don't join this partnership. It's not going to work. But I did it anyway because I thought that this other person was going to help elevate me. Turns out it was quite the opposite. Right. So while I was with that partnership, there was an opportunity that was brought to me well, first of all, we were doing nationwide and we were doing nationwide JV. All right.
Right.
So what that meant was I needed to develop systems to handle all of the JV leads we were getting. So that was kind of the beginning of where we had a JV liaison. So that was my wife coming into the deal, right? So I was having her help me because I couldn't go to every single student and say, hey, here's where your deal is at every single day. I just couldn't do it, right? So what we did is we set up a system of emails and basically touches back to the JV and saying, here's what's going on with your lead, here's how it's working, and yada yada yada. And so it started setting up the systems in place to where my business is now, right? So we're doing a lot of JVs, and in the meantime, I had another opportunity where the VAs that I had two VAs from a small company of I think they had 4 VAs, right? It was nothing. It was one girl. Her name is Andrea. And she was running this whole show. And she goes to me, she goes, Jeremy, would you be open to partnering up with me and building a VA company? And I'm like, I'm honored. She goes, yeah, I see the way you talk to your VAs and you train them. You're great on sales. And something about sales real quick. Think about what it means to be a sommelier, right? To sell a $25,000 bottle of grape juice, you got to learn how to sell, right? You got to learn how to walk up to that table, identify what their wristwatch looks like, their shoes. You got to be able to shift your conversation so that it works with that table. Otherwise, you're not making any sales. So
100%.
So I already came into real estate with a sales background, which is nice. And so with that, I started training my VAs in the same fashion. And the VAs started performing higher and higher every single day compared to Andrea's other VAs. And so Andrea comes to me and she says, would you be open to partnering with me and building a VA company? And you can be in charge of kind of writing the script out and in charge of the training with the VAs, but I'll handle everything else. And I'm like, I'm honored. I would absolutely love that. And so what it eventually became was I handled the front end. So I handled the American side and she handles all the Filipino side. So in January of last year, we finally opened up our call center. So we had all of our VAs in the same call center. So it created the culture. We had all of our managers there and stuff like that. So, we've got multiple dozens and dozens of employees over there doing what they're doing. And what that allowed me to do was focus on that because I have my other partner focusing on acquisitions. Okay. Now, looking back, that was a huge mistake because when I started focusing on prime virtuals, what that allowed me to do is not pay attention to my acquisitions. So then I didn't realize that my other partner was basically dropping the ball, right? Not fulfilling,
not getting any acquisitions,
not doing anything, doing anything. So because I was distracted, I wasn't paying attention to that until
you're training the VAs and making sure that they're knowing what to do, and then the acquisition. Okay.
He was like, I'll handle this, you handle this. Awesome. Okay. Right. So while I'm doing that, I had one of my acquisition managers come to me and he's like, hey, Jeremy, I got to talk to you. He goes, every deal that I bring to this partner, it dies. And something is wrong here and something's going wrong here. And I think you need to look into it. And so that was when I realized, and he quit. That acquisition manager quit because he's like, I'm just not getting any money and this isn't working for me. And so that's when I realized that other partner was just really failing. And so that partnership dissolved very, very quickly. I lost a lot of money from that, a lot, because also on top of that, remember I said how that partner thought he was going to elevate me. I said, I'll take care of all the expenses. I'll pay for all the marketing. You know what? Brother, you are amazing. I value you. So let me take the brunt of the financing and I'll take that over. And so I lost a lot of money because of this person. And so fast forward, Alex Smades, who was one of my acquisition managers at the time, when times got tough, he went 5 times harder, right? Super, super hard. He started grinding. He started getting us deals nonstop. And he came to me and said, Jeremy, what could I do to earn partnership with you? And I was like, well, first of all, culture wise, you're the right fit. Like, I love you. You're like a brother to me already. Like, I absolutely can see your work ethic is fantastic. And I said, here's what I'm thinking. I don't want to do any more JVs at all. I hate JVs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about JVs for a second. Like, if someone is coming to me for a JV, it means that it's a very hard deal to close, right?
Yeah.
It's not just an easy lay down, and you're in the sub two community. So like, here's the thing. If you go onto any Zoom that Pace is on, what do you see in the side chat? You see dozens of people saying, I'm a closer, I'm a closer, I'm a closer.
Yeah.
Right. So they're filtering all of the easy to close leads. It's getting to them first. But then once the deal can't be closed by one of those closers, then it elevates to me where it comes to my plate. And they're like, hey, there's like 40 different moving parts. There's like 15 different children in a probate case with liens and all this stuff. Can you help us close it? So I was like, I don't want to do our JVs anymore. It's taking up way too much of my bandwidth. What I want to do, Alex, is I want to come back to Utah. Now that we've sharpened our teeth, now that we know our systems, we got all of our systems in place, dialer, texting, all that stuff. What I want to do is I want to come back to Utah. And I want you to build out our systems for that, right? I want you to gather all of our data. I want you to manage all of our acquisition team. I want you to do everything for that to where I don't have to, because I've already done it not only for my own first company, but then I did it again for the second company with the bad partnership. Third time, I don't want to build this out again. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. So I go to Alex, I go, if you can build this out and you can get us up and running and get us running some deals, you will get 50% partnership. And he did exactly that. So we put all of our marketing on hold from basically December until the end of February. And March 3rd, we turned our marketing back on. And by the end of May, so March, April, and May, we had $211,000 in net profit from all of our deals that we closed. And then we also acquired, I think, 3 different properties with creative finance.
And so that's 2022.
That's 2022. Yep. Okay. So 2022, that's what we got going on there. And then we continue to have our ups and downs. While we were trying to scale our business faster than I think we should have, what that did was we tried to hire on 4 new acquisition managers, right? And unfortunately, 3 of them were not the right fit. So this all happened. We basically, from March until May, everything was solid. We were like on the up and up. We were making a lot of money. We were acquiring deals, buying properties. And then the market shifted, right? July, the market shifted. And so we had hired new employees. We had been training them for basically May and June in preparation. And then July, Salt Lake, if you didn't know this, but Salt Lake was the #1 market for price drops in the nation because we had appreciated so fast. We also deflated so fast. Right. And every single homeowner just put their house on the market as fast as possible. And they just fire sailed, right? They just 10,000 less, 20,000 less, 30,000 less, right? So some of our highest performing zip codes in Salt Lake had I think by end of September, had already seen a 20 and a 30% price drop. Okay. So a $500,000 home that sees a 20,000 or 20% price drop, that's $100,000 less in a matter of 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was kind of the perfect storm. It was not only did we hire on 4 new people and we put all of our time into training them, but we also had the market shifting and those 3 people were not the right fit. Then we also have the shift in the market. And then to make matters even worse, REI Reply, which is what we were using for our SMS, shut us down. So they shut us down for over a month. Yeah. Right. And I do you use REI Reply? Are you familiar with it?
No, I don't. I use Unapologetic Results.
Okay. So yeah. REI Reply basically shut us down in precaution to not get shut down themselves, right? So they've got a lot of different clients. They've got a lot of different investors that work underneath them. And because you got REI Reply is working on the platform Go High Level. Go High Level is working with Twilio, and Twilio works underneath the carriers. So when the carriers set up their all their standards, Twilio says, okay, we must conform. We must go towards those standards. So they pass that down to Go High Level and REI Reply. And then REI Reply says, we're going to be extra cautious. We're going to be super cautious. So we're going to shut down any account that even leans towards that spam stuff. So they shut us down. They're like, well, number one, your SMS text messages, they're too long. You got to shorten them. Okay, cool. All right, we can do that. Number two, you got to put opt-out language now, right? So like, hey, text no or text stop if you want to be taken off our list. Okay.
Right.
But the problem was that they're requiring us to be below 255 characters on the outgoing text. But when we have to include that opt-out language, that also includes those 255 characters. So our very first text message going out sounds half stupid. It's like, do sell house, maybe. Like it goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. So our results beforehand, we were very curated, right? We had all of our text messages be really, really specific towards our campaigns, right? Mm-hmm. So, hey, if you're going to auction, hey, we work very closely with the trustee, yada, yada, yada. We'd like to help you by buying your home, blah, 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 blah. We had very curated text messages to go out. And now that all stopped. Okay. So not only does our marketing stop, but our acquisition managers, we had to let go, as well as the market shifting. The second and third quarter, or the third and fourth quarter of last year hurt really bad, really bad. So
when all that wasn't going.
Right. And it hurt really bad, specifically on the cash deal front. Right. So creative wise, as soon as we got up and running for that month, we started getting a lot of different deals for creative, which was amazing. Because now, before in Utah, people, if I said, hey, what do you think about seller finance? They would just tell me to F off. Now that actual conversation is becoming reality, right? So people are actually open to talking about that. But the problem is that if we're not getting cash deals, we're not getting active income to fund our creative deals, right? Okay. So that's where we had a huge hiccup there, where we're like, oh my God, I've got 5 creative deals that we have under contract. How are we paying for them?
How are we going to fund them?
Right. So, and each one is going to be an entry fee of at least $20,000. If you're thinking about, arrears, and you're thinking about closing costs and holding costs and all that kind of stuff, like a minimum of 20 grand, right? We've got one property we're closing in Las Vegas right now that luckily is only $4,000 entry, but we still got to go in and we got to do new carpet and new paint. So still realistically it's about 15 grand, but nonetheless, if you get into a creative deal, it's always going to cost you money. It's never going to be free.
Yeah. I mean, I know that the conversations are definitely getting more open as far as that regard, just because I had a realtor the other day that I almost got it all the way home on a seller finance deal with, but we didn't end up getting it. But I mean, it was a super clean house.
No, exactly. And so with that, then that meant I had to now make a shift in more private money, which was, the saying goes is you don't look for private money when you need it. You look for private money when you don't need it. Well, we didn't have the time to not need it. So now I'm sitting here going, like, we got 5 properties under contract and now I need private money for this deal and stuff like that. And so, I'll give you a great example. We have a creative deal that we're selling right now. We bought it 6 months ago. We owned it. And now we're going to be selling it off. We bought it at 270 and we are under contract to close on Friday at 375. And we put no money into it. Right. So deals like that, sweet. I'm stoked on. Hey, you know what? I will make over $100,000. I'm very happy to do so because then that funds our additional creative finance deals. But nonetheless, the problem with Utah is that we were experiencing a double strike. Okay. We were experiencing a seller strike, right? Which I've talked about before, which is unless a seller needs to sell, like foreclosure, divorce, something like that, unless they need to absolutely sell, they will not sell right now, because why would they? Why would they want to buy? Why would they want to sell their property to then buy another house at 7% interest? It doesn't make any sense because they can't afford it. So sellers are waiting for the market to stabilize. They're waiting for interest rates to drop. They're waiting for prices of homes to go down because, again, if you need to sell your home today and you decide to do that, what are you doing? You're shooting yourself in the foot twice. Not only are you buying a new property, still at a higher rate because it still needs to come down, but you're also getting a higher interest rate. So you're basically screwing yourself over twice. So we're seeing sellers that are not selling their property because of that seller strike. Now, on the opposite side of the coin, we're seeing a buyer strike, right? All those cash buyers that were buying before because they had 33% appreciation month over month where they couldn't do anything wrong and they would just make $1 million. It's the opposite now. Because that now they're not buying, because not only did all of our biggest buyers kind of get really damaged during this, like, I mean, some of my biggest, my friends, people that I go out with for dinner and stuff, they had 5 to 10 properties, on the MLS that went nowhere, and they had to drop all of their prices by over $100,000. Can you imagine that? Like
No,
having,
I couldn't.
yeah, having 10 properties where
Ooh,
you got to drop it by $100,000 minimum on every single property just to be able
I'd
to
be
sell.
sick.
So all of our buyers basically stopped buying. And if they were to buy, it would have to be at a price that not only reflects the current market value, but also reflects the repair value, but also reflects a discount for the next coming 6 months. So you're having to get a property lower, lower, lower to just anticipate that the market is still going to drop, because before a buyer would know that the market's going up. So if they bought it at 500,000, they could do nothing to the property and they would make money on it. And now it's the exact opposite. It's losing value every day. So we're having to get that number down even lower. So now imagine going to a seller and going to that seller and saying, "Hey, I know you want 400,000 for your property, but I can only offer you like 150 grand." Is that seller going to sell? No.
Like a thousand times, like 999 times out of 1,000. No.
Right. Exactly right. Unless for some, and here's the messed up thing is that I'm more of a conservative person. I like to really make sure that my deals are safe, and it's almost to a fault, actually. Okay. So talk about that for a second. If you get 10 deals under contract, let me ask you this, Pat. If you get 10 deals under contract, how many deals do you want to go through to the end?
I
To
want
close?
10. I want 10 of them to close.
No, you don't,
Why not?
because you're being too conservative, right? You're being too safe. You want to have 7 out of 10 deals close, because that means that you're being aggressive and you're getting deals under contract. Some of them may not work out, but you're not being a bitch, right?
Yeah.
For me,
Okay.
I was a bitch. I've been a bitch. I've always been terrified of failure. And so
Me too.
every deal that I want to make sure that those numbers are 100% for me. Okay. So here's what it's done. Here's what it's done for me. It's allowed us to have our assignment fees. Our average assignment fees in Utah were $55,000 for every deal we did. Right. That's great, but that's not good. Right. Why that's not good is that means that all I'm doing is getting big grand slam home runs, but I'm not getting any $5,000-$10,000 small deals, small wins. I'm not getting any base hits because I'm being too conservative. So again, this deal right now that we're under contract to sell on Friday, I'll be making about $105,000 on that. Plus, I also had a $5,000 option fee that came to me. So technically, I'm making about $110,000 on that deal. That is a massive grand slam, but that shouldn't be that big. That's not common.
And so, do you think that the creative finance part of all this you've gotten to this space, obviously, in creative finance to where you've absolutely got it down and you're crushing it, and like just the market hitting right at this time, it just seems like you've all like it just everything aligned at the perfect time for you.
So where I'm at with creative finance now, yeah, it's a great alignment. I love it. I'm happy with it. I'm able to have those conversations. I'm also kind of posed as being an authority in the area. So I have a lot of people in Utah that are coming to me about help with these creative finance deals. So I mean, like the house I'm living in right now, a wholesaler brought me a deal that was under contract for subject to. The entire deal was messed up. It was broken from the start. Like the numbers didn't work. Like I'll put it this way. They were giving an interest rate to not only the seller's equity, but they were also giving an interest rate to the underlying mortgage as well. So they were paying this seller more money than he could ever make on this. And of course, for the seller, that's a great deal, right? He's going to make like $1 million on this property. And so these wholesalers come to me and they're like, "Hey, would you be able to help us figure out why we can't assign this deal?" And I look at the numbers and I go, well, number one, this, number two, down payment being $120,000. Like this is broken. I go, "When do you guys have your contract expired?" They're like, "Tomorrow." I'm like, "So you locked up this seller, you've kept him under contract for this amount of time, and you're wondering why he doesn't want to work with you." Right. Like, so I call the seller up and I'm like, "Hey, I'm not representing these guys, but I am representing experience in this industry and experience in creative finance. And I want to try to figure out how I can help you." Right. And so we start talking. I go, "Well, let me ask you this. Why do you need $120,000 down payment?" And he goes, I don't. They just offered it. I'm like, okay.
Really?
So I came at him and I was like, hey, you got two choices. I can either come at you with a cash deal, right? And you'll have your money. I said to him, backtrack. I said, what do you need? And he goes, I need $60,000. And I go, what for? And I always ask that. And he goes, my dad just got diagnosed with cancer and I want to pay for his treatment and I want to get him a vehicle for transportation because the reason that they're selling this house is he was moving to Germany for work. So he was stuck here with all of his stuff in storage while those wholesalers had him locked up under contract. So I identified his pain and I said, listen, we could do one of two things. Both things are going to get you that $60,000 that you need. Either of it. One, you get the $60,000 you need, and then I buy the property with a cash offer of $570. Okay. Or you get the $60,000 you need, and then I buy the property in 10 years at a purchase price of $750. But I make no payments to you for 10 years. I only pay the mortgage, but then in 10 years, I will pay you a balloon payment. So what do you think it took?
The balloon payment.
Exactly right. So yeah. I'm paying no payments to the seller for 10 years. All I'm paying for this 6-bed, 4-bath house is I'm paying about $2,100 for the mortgage at 2.23%. Right.
Interest.
And super low interest. And he's owned it for a while. Awesome. So principal pay down is great. So basically, like if we're looking at 10 years at just small appreciation, like the lowest appreciation possible, this home is going to be worth probably about $1 million in 10 years, even more than that. And all he needs is a purchase price of $750. So those are, again, like what you asked before about, with my experience in creative finance, that's kind of put me in a position for right now with the market shifting. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But what I will say, why creative finance hurt me was when I started becoming a wholesaler and I had that shiny object of creative finance. So what I'll tell you right now is probably the number one rule that I live by now within my company. And I learned this from one of my masterminds, a guy named Dan Walters, great guy, incredible in business. We were at dinner one night at a mastermind and he sat down and he looked at me. He's like, Jeremy, he's like, I'm listening to your problems and I know what you're doing wrong. You're a squirrel, right? Shiny object syndrome, everything. I mean, like, not only am I trying to build a wholesale business, but I'm also trying to build prime virtuals. I'm trying to build a virtual assistant business, right? Mm-hmm. And so every day that I get taken away from the virtual assistant business to focus on the acquisition business, the virtual assistant business suffers, right? So I'm playing this juggling game the entire time. But the one thing he said to me was him and his partner live by one rule, and that is we don't do that. The saying is we don't do that. So if someone comes to you, Pat, and they're like, hey, man, do you want to do Airbnb arbitrage?
I don't do that.
We don't do that.
I don't do that.
You want to do whatever it's called, sober housing. You want to do assisted living. You want all the things that are creative finance, right? All these fun things out there. No, we don't do that. And so I'll say though, that in the beginning, because I learned about creative finance and I found Pace Morby, I'll tell you right now, it damaged me in the beginning because when I started wholesaling, I learned about subject to.
I had the same experience, literally.
So how was that experience for you? How did it affect you?
Well, so basically I got my first deal off of calling a realtor, just boom, made an offer, made $10K off of it. I think it was in September of 2021. It was just a cash deal, and like my stepdad had known this cash buyer because he's a broker in Birmingham. So, I was like, okay, man, I can do this. So I start watching Jerry Norton on YouTube, and of course I see Pace and Subject to, and I'm like, oh man, you can pay full price for this. Like I'm out here making these offers that are so far under list price. So, getting in and joining Sub 2, literally what I was told to do was you need a wholesale. Like that was the first thing that was told to me, and it was just like so hard because of everything else that was going on. I was so new to real estate that like I didn't really know better, so it kind of led me down a path of like just getting in fear because like I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, and it took me to a lot of inaction, and I started working myself back up, and that's when I got into Astro. And for about like 2-3 months now, I've been like really, really hitting it hard and feeling good. But I've only been focusing on wholesale, and I've only been focusing in Memphis and Nashville, Tennessee, and that's it.
Good.
So like it's things are starting to click for me now, and I'm starting to like really like get good relationships in the areas with the agents, and also with my cash buyers as well. So everything is like totally changed, just because I had that shift in like, all right, I'm gonna only focus on realtor outreach in Nashville, and since I've only focused on that, everything's been working out better. Like I said, I had that deal that I was talking about. It was actually going to be 0% down. I mean 0% interest, and it was only going to be 16,000 down, and it was like a $350,000 purchase price, and it would have been like $810 a month or something for 30 years on a 5-year balloon.
Right.
It was going to be sweet, but we couldn't push it through. But yeah, that's kind of how it was, man. I was like, man, there's so many different ways that I can be doing this that I really didn't pick away. I really never mastered anything. And that just led me to not take any action. I would just watch the videos, and be like, oh, I'm learning real estate,
And that's just it for me. I haven't been on a Zoom for learning in a long time now. It's been months, because every Zoom that I go on, it's nothing more than a distraction. Like, sure, I'm getting educated and I'm learning about something new that I never learned about. Right now, the hot topic is Chat GPT, right? Have you seen that yet?
Mm-mm. Chat
Brother,
GPT?
Chat GPT. It's the AI that's able to like basically,
Okay.
it's
Yes,
incredible. It's amazing. It's the hot topic, right? Everyone's talking about it. But I'm going, when I look at that, I go, oh my God, I could have artificial intelligence that markets to my sellers and does this and does this and does this. And I'm going, that's amazing, but not right now. Not for me. Not right now. I don't do that, right? Because what that means is I'm going to have to shift around my marketing. I'm going to have to shift around my website. I'm going to have to do everything like that. But what that's doing is it's taking me away from the money-making activities of running my business, right?
And well, sorry to interrupt you, but
no,
me saying no to your question, do you know what Chat GPT is a good thing, because of no, not right now, because I'm only focusing on wholesale and what I'm doing. Like, that's why I don't know about it,
And that's great. And so, it's like you look in the background right here, right? I've got my podcast studio set up, but I haven't even done a podcast yet, because I built this out and I thought, like, just before the market shifted and we hired on the 4 new acquisition managers, I'm like, good, I could finally focus on my social media and be good to go. And I could do the podcasting and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm not going to create a podcast yet, even though I have this beautiful set behind me that I really want to use. I'm not going to do it yet because my business has not recovered from the damages that occurred. Right. And so I'm back in the trenches. I'm getting dirty. I'm bloody and muddy, and that's what we need to do. And so it's, going back to my original point, when I did not have a business yet and I learned about creative finance, it slowed down the growth by a lot, because every seller I was talking to now, what's the thing you want to do? Do you want to, if you're talking to a seller, do you want to give them a super low ball cash offer? Or do you want to talk to them about all the creative ideas that you have going through your mind? I mean, what do you want to do?
You want to talk to them about the good offer,
right? It's
the most money. Yeah.
It's the path of least resistance, right? Everyone wants that. And that's where also a lot of sales managers and acquisition managers have problems, because they want to talk about the path of least resistance. Why would I offer you $200,000 less than you want to receive when I could offer you more? That means the seller doesn't tell you to frick off, doesn't say anything like that. Like, it's an easier conversation, which is what that allowed me to do, was have easier conversations, but not get the deals like I wanted to. So once I came back to Utah and I said, this is what I need. I need X number of offers going out for cash deals, yada, yada, yada. That's what we did. And that's eventually what we accomplished. And so now tracking all of our KPIs for both our acquisition company, but also for Prime Virtuals, is extremely important. We need to be able to understand and keep our finger on the pulse and know, how is my business performing? How is my business scaling? Is it going forward in the direction I want it to, or is it not? Like, you got to, again, we can talk about this forever and ever and ever, but setting goals for yourself and stuff like that. If I had a goal, I would have said, don't talk about creative finance yet. Don't learn about it yet until you've built your wholesale business to be self-sustainable. Right. If I could have done that and had a self-sustainable in my masterminds, there are some people that are doing like 100 deals a month. None of them creative finance. Right?
Wow.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy because when I look at their KPIs and I see their numbers and I'm like, dude, you guys are making so much money, but you're leaving so much money on the table.
Mm-hmm. It could be much more.
It could be much more. But let me ask you this question. If you're running a business, would you rather be doing 100 deals a month and only be doing cash deals? Or would you rather be doing less deals a month, but be talking about creative finance?
I'd rather be doing less deals and talking about creative finance because I want my business to be long-term and sustainable.
Exactly. You want to simplify your business. Look at Netflix, right? Netflix does one thing. It shows movies, right? That kind of thing. Like if you look at Amazon started off as a book seller. If you didn't know that, they just sold books.
Yeah.
And then now they're just an online retailer, right? Like if you look at all the biggest companies out there, they focus on one thing and they get really good at one thing. Tesla is not a jack of all trades, but no, they're a master of one, which is electric vehicles, right? So you got to think about that. If you're going to be running a business, you want to be the master of your business. You want to be the best at your business. And right now in Utah, prime example, the best in the business that was here literally is dropping out right now. They literally made an announcement saying that we're not going to be doing any single family residences for the forthcoming future. We're out of that business now because times got tough and times got hard. So now I want to fill that vacuum and I want to be the best in the business.
Well, bro, I believe you can do it, man. You're absolute wrecking ball out there. I see you everywhere.
Thank you, brother. So with that being said, what can I help you with your business right now?
Bro, man, you being on the podcast, bringing the value, talking today, man, that was it, man. I really, in wholesale right now, that is literally what I'm focusing on. I'm trying to get 30 new agents in my pipeline every single day. I'm working on cash deals right now because that's what I'm trying to do is build out my wholesale business. And, I'm really working on my social media and trying to be loud and let people know what I'm doing and just let them know who I am. And I've been doing a good job of that. I've got this series going on in Astro, for 45 days in a row. I've made a 5-minute video just of me documenting my journey. I've been really consistent with it, and I'm starting to get people watching me and feedback in the community of people coming on and being man, y'all don't know how much Patrick's videos have been helping me out. So having you on today is really big for me, man. I was really excited for that. And I just like to keep in contact with you, and hopefully I'll be seeing you at one of these masterminds. I was at Clever Summit last year. I don't know if you went to that, but I was there.
You mean in Vegas?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there. I was drunk most of the time, but I was there.
Yeah, I went, but that was literally I had just joined Sub 2. It was crazy. I got a free ticket. It was crazy how it all worked out. But yeah, man, I'm just nose to the grindstone, working hard and trying to make my relationships in the real estate world,
I love it. And I'll leave you with this. You said in the very beginning of this podcast that this week you just got a good relationship with a buyer. Okay. That is the key to success in this business, right? It really is. It's not email blasting out a whole list of buyers. It's creating relationships and knowing what that buyer's buy box is going to be, right? So for example, that deal that I'm making a lot of money on, that was a previous buyer that we had worked with. They had bought a previous deal from us down in that county where it's at. And so I knew they were in that area. I said, hey, you guys were great to work with before. I have this deal right now. Would you want to buy this? And they looked it over and they go, yeah. And I said, I'm asking for 385, but if you guys say yes to this right now, I'll just do it for 375 because I like working with you. And they go, let's do it. Let's sign the papers. 375. Let's go. Without inspection. They haven't even checked out the property. They're not going to check out the property. They're going to close on Friday without an inspection because we've created a relationship where they know if I'm coming in to them with numbers and I'm like, these are your comps. This is your value. Here's your pictures. You at least get to see it, but they trust me and I trust them, and so
That's
It
so valuable because
really is.
that doesn't go away.
And probably one of my best relationships, the best per value relationship that I have is one of my best friends is my title officer, my escrow officer, right? So she is incredible. And you have to think about this for a second. If you're doing creative finance, not only do you want to have someone in your corner that's able to close your deals, but you also want the ability to call them and actually ask questions. You also want the ability to go, hey, I'm having a hard time finding a buyer for this. Do you know anybody? Dude, she closes deals every single day, right? Like, of course she knows buyers. So she'll be
Yeah.
able to put you in touch with that. If you need hard money, if you need private money, like an escrow officer is probably the most important relationship that you could ever have. And I'll tell you that right now, as you're building these relationships, reach out to your title company, create a relationship. Like I'll tell you right now, I'm having her and her boyfriend over next week and I'm cooking them dinner, right? It's like at that level. You buy
Yeah,
them,
no.
stuff like that. So the people that are important in your life, the people that help build your business, that loyalty and that friendship is the most important thing in this business. It's not the deals you do, it's the relationships that you create and the relationships that you keep. So I'll kind of leave you with that.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. I definitely, so one last thing I wanted to say was that, so after I get my wholesale thing fixed up and I do start getting into the creative finance thing too, I do want to open up some sober livings. Both me and Catherine,
Okay.
my girlfriend in our early 20s went through a horrible addiction. So like being able to come full circle on that and like is just going to be so huge for us. So like creative finance is going to come into the play for me one day. So
If you're going to do it into sober living, what you're going to have to do, and I'll tell you this right now, set a 5-year goal, 4-year goal, whatever it may be. I'll tell you right now, with where I'm hearing your business is at currently, you should not have that goal for at least 3 years. Okay. So set a 3-year goal or a 4-year goal, somewhere around there, and then deconstruct that goal. How do you get to that point? If you're going to be acquiring sober living properties, you're going to have some form of seller finance, right? You're not coming in with cash, right? But emotionally sober living is one of your ultimate goals. And that's amazing. That is one of your whys. For me, my father had all of his homes foreclosed on, right? We got evicted. We got kicked out of the house. All of my personal belongings as a kid was all thrown away. So for me, helping people and families through foreclosure is really important for me to kind of help them through that process to make
Yeah.
sure that never happens again. So like your why is sober living for what you went through. So always have that be your ultimate goal, but figure out how to get to that goal and deconstruct
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, is there any other plugs that you want to throw out before we go?
So you're in Nashville?
No, I'm in Birmingham, but
Okay.
I work Nashville and Memphis. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. I was going to say I was going to be in Nashville next month, but for a mastermind. But other than that, I'll say this: anything you need help with in regards to creative finance, feel free to reach out to me. If anyone is listening to this, you can always find me at the Jeremy Davis, so the Jeremy Davis on Instagram. You could also do the same thing on YouTube, so youtube.com/at the Jeremy Davis. And lastly, if you're looking for virtual assistants that are good at what they do, I can give you guys 50% off. So if you hear that, primevirtuals.com, I'll give you 50% off and just mention my name. And I think that works.
There we go. Yeah, man. I'll have that all thrown up there and it'll be printed out so everybody can see it, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, bro, let's stay in touch and
Absolutely,
take
bro.
care, okay?
Whatever you need.
All
Happy
right,
New Year, by
man.
the way.
Yeah, happy New Year, man. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Perfect. Later, brother.